Hi, my name is Lucas Johnson. Today I'm going to be covering the MIS 670 final project. So just get right into it so we can be sure to have enough time here. So I'm doing sentiment analysis, particularly over Motley Fool, a website that does stock information and stock recommendations, more specifically in relation to GameStop and AMC. So here's the honor code for myself. And to get straight into business and data understanding, the topic for consideration is the media's perception of popular stocks like GameStop and AMC versus the public's perception of it for retail investors, more specifically through Twitter. Wanted to look at Motley Fool because they are an infamous stock advice website who is owned by a hedge fund. So this specific hedge fund that they're owned by has reason to put out information that goes against GameStop and AMC because they've heavily shorted both of those stocks. And so I want to see whether or not their sentiment of it was going to be particularly more negative than GameStop's and AMC, to then for them look forward and see how can we more align with retail investors to better serve them. And so for the Motley Fool, yes, it would be interesting to see the difference between sentiment for retail investors and hedge funds, see how they're aligned or misaligned. So I scraped Twitter using the Python file that we went through and looked for GameStop, AMC, GME, and GME is me. All of these topics would really be under the umbrella of these two different distinct topics to be able to better discuss them. And so then going in, I read through the data and then requested the data from the Motley Fool website and then scraped down 10 results from it because they didn't have any relevant information. They were about the quarterly results. And so then combined the data and was just basically a recap of the things that I just discussed. For data cleaning and text pre-processing, there's much less cleaning that needs to be done with the Motley Fool articles, as there's 51 total articles and they're all properly named. And so it really just came down to removing brackets and things like that. So I spent a majority of this time working on tweets. And so as we can see, I have 898 total tweets. This is probably from 20 minutes of scraping and went through all the data in a list. So first of all, to go through the hashtags, 338 hashtags used in 898 tweets, which I thought was interesting as it seems like that's quite a few. And so then to go through, there's 429 original retweets. So looking at about half of them are retweets versus original tweets. And then for time series, it's interesting to see all the tweets that I scraped were really between a 35-minute time span, and we are still able to get 898, which just shows how active these stocks are on Twitter and how active people are discussing them even on a Sunday, which is when I'm recording this and scraping this data. So for user metrics, there's 652 unique users, so there's a lot of different users interacting with this rather than just the same users interacting with content over and over. For most active users, we have a few different people here that are tweeting quite a bit in this time span, but it's all interesting information. For who's showing location information, just for a little bit of fun here, vast majority are not sharing locations, and then just a few are. Most visible users, and this is a cat attack magma 1, who later we'll see in the network analytics is at basically the center, in addition to CEO Adam, which I feel like is interesting because they're the CEO of AMC, so they're catching a lot of interactions, catching a lot of people seeing their profile and seeing the things that they're tweeting. So then data for more descriptive analytics, I reassigned these things to better understand what was going on. Went to top Twitter users with most followers. We see AMC theaters, a lot of PS5 restocking, talking about it restocking at GameStop or speaking about GME specifically. And then visualizing Twitter users with most followers, AMC theaters is obviously the most, and this is speaking more just specifically over things with AMC, but the big downside with trying to record information about AMC, it's hard to diversify from the ticker for the stock AMC because they're going to be the same letters, so it's kind of hard to try and imagine getting rid of just things talking about AMC as a theater rather than as a stock. So for word frequency, I went through and had clustered document level word frequency analysis and found that the most visual topics are stock, GameStop, AMC, and really this makes sense as a lot of the information are typical statements that you would find when you're talking about news or with stocks in general. And then most popular words associated with GME or AMC, we have AMC, GME, GameStop, Doge. So Dogecoin being a cryptocurrency. So I guess a lot of people that are retail investors are also invested in Doge. And then plane, I believe this would be referring to like a plane taking off, because there's a lot of people that are excited about GameStop and AMC, and people are putting up banners on planes and flying them around with things like "we're not going to sell," to try and send a message to hedge funds or something like that. But that's a particularly hot topic for today. And then most common words, again, this is a visualization of that same topic. And then with most visuals, we're seeing a lot of stuff with AMC and GameStop and getting money and Dogecoin. So these are all going through in a similar manner. And then in visualizing the top results for hashtags that we're looking for, hashtag AMC is big, hashtag AMC Army, hashtag AMC to the moon, GameStop, mother of all short squeezes. All of these things are referring to a concept of strong belief in both of these stocks. These hashtags, almost more so than anything else, point to positive sentiment that's going on Twitter towards these two stocks. So with this, they're saying mother of all short squeezes with the MOASS. That points to the fact that hedge funds have over leveraged themselves in shorting GameStop and AMC, leading to over 100% of the float being consumed by them. And with that in mind, the price could technically go to infinity, as they will need to cover their shorts at some point, and there will not be the available shorts to do so. So then moving on, hashtag association and strength analysis. I combine these two, which is what you really end up doing in co-hashtag analysis, but AMC and to the moon, AMC and GME, these are very heavily related stocks to each other. And you can even see this in the price movement for the stocks throughout the day. They oftentimes move in very similar directions. And we're seeing like hodl, so holding. So people are really trying to emphasize the idea that you need to be holding this stock and not selling, which again just points to this positive sentiment. And content analytics, we can go now into sentiment analytics. I had to add a lot of phrases into the lexicon for Vader sentiment because a lot of these things were not currently held in. I looked and went into the lexicon.txt file for Vader sentiment and tried to add these myself with their own associations, but it wasn't really working well for me. But I was able to add this through a Stack Overflow recommendation, and this helped me to get more associations. But I think what I'm realizing is that trying to track stocks, you're going to catch a lot of people coming after those that are going against the stock, which would point to negative sentiment or point to neutral sentiment, when that isn't actually the message that they're looking to send. And so we can see with doing the overall tweets, we have 148 positive, 64 negative, and 217 neutral. But as I'll go into with this next few slides over the ticker or over the Motley Fool news, we're seeing a lot of neutral ones that shouldn't actually be neutral. And that would point again to that sentiment being even more positive. And I think it's even actionable to say that 148 positive and 64 negative points to an overarching positive movement for the stock itself. And that really is just reflecting what I'm saying now. So 51 coming in for the data set over the Motley Fool, 25 positive, 9 negative, and 17 neutral. And this is again just something that I'm struggling to really wrap my head around, because things like why GameStop stock sank Monday is rated at a completely neutral level, which it really isn't. And I think this is just an issue with the way Vader sentiment reads things like investment news. And so like why GameStop stock continues to run up is a positive sentiment, but Vader sentiment just isn't catching these ideas. And I tried to add more things in to try and make it feel more proper, but it just wasn't working out that way. And really, yeah, for all we know, this could be occurring with the tweets as well, many of them being labeled neutral when they could be labeled positive or negative. Going to topic modeling, I went through and got this set up, and we can see the different distinct topics they're talking about, but at the end of the day, they're all relating to GameStop or AMC in some way. So really consistent messaging. We have a word cloud that covers both the descriptive analytics and content analytics, and the that really just covers things that we were kind of familiarized with. Then I went through and did the same thing with the Motley Fool. We're seeing topics about just GameStop as a whole, or like earnings reviews, things like that, going through for the different topics, and a word cloud to associate it with as well. Then going to network analytics, I put a mention network together. Again, that cat attack Megama 1 is at the center of it. CEO Adam is at the center of it as well, with a lot of engagements going on across these 20 minutes or so. And then with the co-hashtag network, we can see that with AMC and GameStop, things like hold to the moon and AMC squeeze, short squeeze referring to the idea that shorts are not able to cover properly because the stocks don't exist for them to cover with because people are holding them, causing the price to go up and up, potentially to infinity, relating to that mother of all short squeezes sentiment. So really basically what we can take out of this information is that the feeling for retail investors about GameStop and AMC is incredibly high. People are using things like mother of all short squeezes. People are holding the stock, and people feel very positively towards it. But with the Motley Fool, at least on my own count, I was reading 18 negative articles amongst the 51 total, and that was at minimum, and not including anything regarding neutrals. And that was 18 neutrals with 27 negatives. Sorry, that was my bad. And with 27 negatives on my own count, that's a majority of the articles that I was reading. So with the majority negative sentiment from Motley Fool and a vastly positive sentiment from Twitter users, it really begs into question the values of Motley Fool and the recommendations that they're making. Is that dependent on the idea that they're a hedge fund, and so they have a reason to be giving negative sentiment so that the price will go down so they don't have to cover for as much money? I mean, it's all things that have to be considered, but moving forward, it would be in Motley Fool's best interest for their own reputation to be able to more accurately reflect the sentiment of retail investors and recognize the current situation that's going on and realize the advantageous nature of it moving forward. So thank you so much. It was a great class, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me today. Have a